So first question is about shipping dates and delays, especially for people who have ordered units more than a year ago. This is from Rocketman. So yeah, so this, I guess it's twice that we have delayed shipments with two products. I mean, so we did that last year with the first version of the station, and now we're doing it again with Helium. Obviously, this proves that there's a lot of things that we're trying to manage that are very difficult, and we haven't found solutions to the problems, even though this is the second time that we're doing it. So to give you a rough idea of what's happening in the specifically for Helium, because M5 shipments are going fine. So if anybody of you is waiting for an M5 weather station more than a month, that means something went wrong, because we're delivering with less than a month delay. So the situation here, basically with Helium specifically, is that we had engineering prototypes last summer. So we have the hardware in our hands for quite some time. The team worked really hard to deliver everything last year, before the end of the year. That means we had to do a lot of firmware and back-end, front-end development. In case you're not aware of this, the hardware design is ours. I mean, we're doing it with Seed Studio, but the components there that we put there are the components that we asked Seed Studio to put, and we are developing the firmware with them. And we're also building all the infrastructure that connects to it. So that weather station, the Helium weather station, is one of a kind. This product has never existed before. It's an all-in-one weather station that connects to LoRaWAN. And the previous weather station we did, the M5 one, the hardware modifications were minor. So we just added the crypto chip and some other components. Where in the Helium one, we just went way more in the design. Anyway, so in November, we shipped some units to Alpha. We expanded the Alpha test with some members of the community. So we sent a few stations, and we came across some new problems that we were not aware of. So, and some of those problems were hardware related, so we had to replace components. And we also had to do modifications in the tooling, in the injection molding of the plastics. So this was the initial one of the major reasons why we delayed the shipment last year. Now around January, we were more or less ready to ship, and that's when we started facing all the problems with the logistics again. What we're trying to achieve here is basically we're trying to deliver the stations to your door without you having to pay for import custom fees. So we're paying
wherever that's possible.
Yeah, to the extent that that's possible. So we are paying the fees, and therefore we're using more sophisticated logistic routes to minimize our cost. And that means we're managing stock of 3 different products: the European and US version of the M5 and the Helium hardware, which is unified, which is a good thing. So we have 3 products in 6 warehouses: US, EU, UK, Canada, Australia, and China. And we're trying to organize all this in the most efficient way. Therefore, Helium is still not in every warehouse, and that's why we haven't started shipping yet. Most likely, we will ask the warehouses to release the products this week, which means you will get your tracking number. The first tracking numbers are going to arrive to you next week, and basically together with a product. next week, but that's for US warehouse. For the other warehouses, I cannot guarantee at this point that we will follow the same schedule, because in some warehouses the products haven't reached the destination yet. But it's definitely very close. It's definitely the next few days. I know Lena has said the same thing more than once. It's because that's what we told her, because that's what we thought. But some of these things are beyond our control when it comes to custom imports. So yeah, that was a long explanation to say that we're going to need a couple of more days, not weeks, days, to initiate shipments for the US, and maybe the last customers will need a couple of weeks to receive the Helium stations.
So Adi is asking about the SDR version of our miner.
Wait. Let's go back to the old questions first.
It's the most recent question.
Okay. So I'm starting with the AMA questions in the separate channel in the general, and then we'll go to the live ones.
Okay, let's take them in order.
Yeah, and I'll try to answer more quickly the other ones. So Scalagrim, can you give details on data host family members have access to station data? So we call this follow my station functionality. Is in our roadmap, but we haven't specified the details. However, Scalagrim is also asking what's going to happen with the data. Are they going to be behind paywall and so on? So the high level idea here is that we are going to release raw data with a dual license, so everybody can have access to the raw data, which means we're not going to put a lot of restrictions into what every individual sees, whether has a weather station or not. And also, since the data are going to be open, anybody can build a mobile app and access the raw data and present the raw data in a different way into a different, let's say, subgroup of people for whatever reasons. So yeah, so the restrictions are going to be when it comes to commercializing the data and when it comes to utilizing added value services such as the quality of data annotation. So when somebody gets the raw data, they can't tell if the data are, if the quality of the data is high or not, because they need to have the kind of mechanisms that we're building that basically rewards every station based on the quality of data that we receive. So essentially, the reward mechanism that we're building is also the first service of the network. It's the service on which we are filtering data, and we can sell the high quality data in a price other than zero, which is the raw data. So we are commercializing on the filtered data, let's say, on the high quality data, on the quality of data information. Is Lena going to be replaced when the DAO takes over? No. Overall, I mean, I know this is a joke, but we're trying to build a network and a protocol here that, because there's so many things involved in this project that has to do with the physical world, like hardware and people that have to do something, and weather. There are so many points of centralization that we don't know how to decentralize, which means I don't think this project is going to evolve like a DeFi project that there's just a bunch of smart contracts here and there and that's it. I think that no matter how much we decentralize the project, there's always going to be a human aspect into this. There's always going to be some parts that is going to be impossible to decentralize, and therefore we need to have a DAO. So therefore we need to pass government to the community. So the stuff that we cannot decentralize, technically speaking, are the ones who are going to be given to the DAO to handle in a decentralized manner. And that's why, by the way, we are building both a Web 2 and a Web 3 infrastructure, because in case you're not aware, most of the stuff you see on your mobile phones are using Web 2 infrastructure because it's impossible to do this in a native Web 3 way today.
Scalagram also asked about spare parts.
Okay, yeah. So spare parts is something that we do want to add in the shop. It's just that it's a little bit of an overhead right now for us. So we are kind of delaying it, and we will do it sometime in the future. However, if anybody has any problems or any broken parts or something that they need help with, just contact support, contact Lina, and we'll be happy to help you out and send you whatever part you need to repair a weather station. Now, if you want to enhance your weather station or modify your weather station, well, I guess this is something that can be discussed in Discord, and we can help each other find solutions on improving the devices. So Astroballs, weather data space developing. Okay, how does AI-driven data modeling can be leveraged to beat out competition? I think the first question here is what is our competition? So I think we're not really competing with meteorological companies. We're trying to build in parallel or on top of what they're building, and hopefully they will become our customers in the future. We're not competing with other Web3 projects. We are trying to collaborate with them. We're not competing with other startups that want to do something innovative using weather data. So it's the way we're approaching it so far. I guess the competition that we will have in the future is when it comes to vertical weather solutions targeting enterprise customers. So in the B2B space is where we will compete with some of the existing weather solutions, let's say weather analytics and hardware solutions. But today that's not clear, and therefore today we're open to any kind of collaboration. Now, when it comes to machine learning, because I wouldn't say artificial intelligence driven data, what we're trying to do is we're using a number of techniques to improve the weather forecast accuracy using historical weather data coming from the stations. And the techniques we're using, they are not unique. I mean, they are known to data scientists, and I'm sure many other companies are following similar approaches. And what we hope will happen in the future is other companies will act similarly to what our company is doing today, and they will purchase data from the network and build services that at that point will compete with the services that we as a company have. But because this will happen in the future, is not exactly a competition for the project in general, is a competition for our company specifically once the company separates from the network, from the DAO. This might not be clear in the white paper because I know it's a long document, but the idea here is there will be a point in time, essentially once we create the DAO, and at that point, some of the services will stay with the network and some of the services will go with the company. So we want to keep the basic services being offered by the network. But we also want to enable companies to build other services on top of this data. And our old company will be just one of them. So we want to invite competition in a way, and we want to try to build an ecosystem around the network that we are currently building. So moving on. New station. Yeah, okay. So right now, the number one priority in terms of hardware, I mean, as soon as we finish with any small problems that we might have with Helium, once we roll it out, the number one priority for us is the 4G, the LTE version of the hardware. That device, sorry, open the window here. So that device is different. The one we have engineering samples from last year, already a few months now, and we're building the firmware and we're testing a number of things for the LTE version of, and so yeah, so we should expect to see that product sometime in the summer. And the interesting thing about that hardware is that it's essentially an IoT sensor node. So it's a generic gateway that can receive a number of different sensors. And we're streamlining it to receive our weather stations, our family of weather stations. But it can very easily receive other types of weather stations, let's say, a better class of weather stations. For example, weather stations that can melt ice and measure precipitation of snow, or more industrial, let's say, in general, devices. And and that sensor node can also receive sensors that are not weather stations. That's not our priority right now, but it expands the possibilities of what this network can do. We've done a lot of work in the past with water quality and environmental monitoring in general, and I think at some point in the future, we should find ways to enhance the network with that sort of data as well. That data is useful for mankind, but it's more difficult to commercialize. Therefore, they are second priority, because we want to make the network as sustainable as possible, basically. So our focus is right now on commercializing B2B use cases. Damn it, I'm expanding a lot on the question, so this is going to take some time. So I'll try to go faster. So we haven't decided what crypto conferences we're going to go. Right now, we are focused on building the product, I guess. Definitely Q3, Q4, you're going to see us in quite a few conferences, but we don't have any plans for the next few months. There will be a status web page with network servers and so on. There is already something for internal use, and I think we will publish it for anybody to see at some point in the near future. Yeah. Okay. AI. Well, the hype around AI right now is for computer engineers. There's nothing new. I mean, okay, maybe the scale of some projects is impressive, or the user friendliness, but I mean, in terms of technology, we don't see anything very different from what we had last year or the year before. So yeah, so we haven't made any changes in our project because of chat GPT or something. Staking in WXM tokens. Yeah. So staking is tricky, and it's kind of from a legal perspective, for sure. And the last couple of days have surfaced that. We have discussed many times with the team on the possibility of having staking and slashing, but I think we're not going to see that in the near future. This is something that we're saving for a future version of the reward mechanism that also includes different classes of weather stations. So right now, yeah. So basically, the white paper that we have released up to this point is trying to answer, to give a high level overview of what we're trying to achieve and keep things simple. we don't want to complicate things just for the sake of it. So we are trying to. We have potential solutions to potential problems when they, but we are waiting for those problems to appear in a way. And since we're not full into the reward mechanism at this point, yeah, we don't need staking yet, let's say. But this is definitely something that we are exploring. There will be more versions, more detailed versions of the white paper and tokenomics in particular, released in the future as we approach token launch.
Can it control the weather?
Yeah,
That's a premium feature.
So this is a funny question because when
it's a premium feature, it's not.
it might be a premium feature, but also the name of the company when we started like almost 10 years ago was WeatherXM, and the inspiration is a machine that actually controls the weather. So yeah, so this has been in our mind as well. I'm sure you probably know that weather can be controlled.
Let's not go into that.
But yeah, okay, let's move on. Yeah. Testing, not really advertising. That's true. Yeah. So to be honest, we haven't spent any serious resources on marketing and stuff related with advertisement because we don't need it yet. So the size of the community that we have at this point is good enough for taking this project off the ground. I think, I'm not saying that we're not capping the growth of the network on purpose, but we're not super eager to expand the network beyond control for no reason, basically. So the whole idea here is we want to build a sustainable network. So demand has to follow in a way the growth of the supply. So this year we're focusing on demand as well. So we have a number of B2B customers that we're doing pilots with. So, more on this will be released as it progresses. And yeah, so I don't think that, if we have a huge explosion in the size of the network right now, it would help us move things faster. So yeah, that's for the marketing things. But yeah, okay, we will improve the marketing. By the way, yeah, so that's a good point here. We're doing a promo video, 2 minutes video, and we have asked, Lena has asked, and I have asked for
Videos.
or short clips of your weather stations. We have loads of photographs and they are amazing because you see different backgrounds, different sceneries, and you can tell immediately that this is a worldwide network. But it would be really cool if we can have a few clips panning, having the camera near the weather station and just moving the camera. High quality recording, obviously. Large files, the larger the better. Send them to Lena, and we can use a few seconds of those in the promo video that we're doing. And you'll be proud that you are part of this network because that video is going to be broadcast everywhere.
Viral very soon.
Yeah. Okay, hex cap limits. So we started very happy, excited that we found the solution to how to meaningfully distribute weather stations on Earth with this concept of capacity and multipliers per cell. And we have a number of criteria by which those figures are being defined in the cell, in the modeling of Earth. that we have. But then the problem became very, very complex very, very soon. And that's why we haven't released the modeling basically that we currently have. So I can give some examples on the figures that we're playing with at this point. So we have some numbers that they range from 1 to 10 when it comes to multiplier and capacity. The combination of multiplier and capacity goes from 1 to 10. So let's say 3 times 3, because those two they multiply each other. So maximum number of capacity is 3 and maximum number of multiplier is 3. But this doesn't mean much, I guess. I don't know, Scalagrim, what do you have in mind for this modeling? But we should definitely share. You should see, and we should share the modeling with you. Yeah, okay, once we're ready, but hopefully it shouldn't take long, because there's a lot of things that we have half baked and we're kind of shy to release.
Almost there.
So I guess we need to be more open about the stuff that they're almost there. Okay, AB 17, 2 weeks away.
This is about rebooting the station.
Rebooting the station, internal battery.
Yeah, we're planning to add some stuff that we can control remotely from for our devices, but rebooting a device that is already offline, I don't think is possible. But other than that, yes, we're planning to add some features to either reboot the station remotely or execute some other actions, and they will probably end up in the app also, so you can do it yourself.
So there's a lot of technical things hidden, let's say, or not activated yet. So M5 can have Bluetooth communications with your mobile phone. We're not using that, but we could use that in the future. By the way, M5 does a number of reboots internally, like of aspects of the functionality. So Wi-Fi.
Well, not reboots, but
yeah.
For example, in the case of AB17, he reports that he saw his device offline and he would like to reboot it. On recent firmware versions, in cases like this, the Wi-Fi subsystem restarts itself to recover. So it takes some steps in order to recover difficult situations like this.
Network connectivity.
Like network connectivity or maybe weather station connectivity.
Yeah. One issue.
You don't really have to reboot the whole station or the whole M5, the whole miner. Yeah.
Yeah. One issue that some users might be experiencing, unfortunately, is that not everybody has the latest version of the firmware, because we discussed this before, but there are some units that
there are some units that are stuck in the old 3.11 version, but these are the first generation of M5s, and the hardware is the same. Some people confuse first generation with the later shipped versions, like they're different, but no, they're the same. There's only one hardware version of M5, except that for the early adopters, they still have the old factory version 3. Yeah, they're only the very early adopters, about 200 units, and they are not capable of getting the latest OTA update due to some limitations.
So it's security related.
It's security related, yeah. And so we will release in the near future a desktop application that will update these miners to a version that will be capable of getting the latest OTA updates.
Yeah. So
they will not be left behind. No one's going to be left behind.
They'll be converted. They will be same with all the remaining.
Yeah. So there's actually only one hardware generation. There's no difference.
So AB17, you might have one of that version, or you might have a version that is not the latest today. Maybe you have this problem like a few months ago or something, because we are constantly pushing new versions of the firmware without you realizing it, of course. Okay, rewards. What's good, great, bad of rewards, and so this is. So Craig is asking about if the good versus bad data is going to be linear in terms of rewards. And to be honest, we don't have an answer for this yet. The smallest data packets that we think we can monetize on is 1 days of data. So if your data have gaps within a day, or this is the simplest scenario. If your data have gaps within a day, we think that data set is not useful. So we would, the score for that would be the slope will be very stiff. So in terms of rewards, so essentially it should be 0 rewards. But then there are some exceptions, like, okay, what happens if you want to maintain the station and you need to take it offline for a while and so on. So we don't want to over penalize those kind of things. Now, when you have a weather station that is near an obstacle, and you have the sun been blocked for some minutes or some hours during the day, or you have the wind been blocked and those sort of things, we can detect that. And this is the whole beauty of this project and the quality of data mechanism that we are building. We can actually detect from the data the bad installations. But how much of an effect this will have to the rewards, we are not there yet. So we haven't decided that. But obviously, this is all going to be public once we finalize it. Feedback function in the app ratings when you don't get full rewards. Exactly. So yeah, so once we have those mechanisms in place in the version that you guys have, in the production version, there will be sufficient explanation of what's going on and why you have less rewards. So if our system detects that something is blocking your wind and therefore you get less rewards, obviously we're going to explain this to you, because the goal here is to create the highest quality possible weather network with by getting together ordinary people like ourselves. And so if we have advice, we would share it with everyone. If the system can produce advice, we have no reason to hide it.
Have already contacted someone about data.
But yeah, I mean, in an automated way. I mean, the question is, yeah. So in the mockups that we have for the new versions of the mobile app, this is already included. But obviously, the mockups is one thing, the implementation is another. So more questions from Greg. These are excellent questions, by the way, all of them. And that's why it's difficult for me to come up with simple answers. So how many station days we have? That's a very good way to measure the network size. And to be honest, we were not using this approach. So I was thinking about those questions, Craig, and I was thinking that we should probably utilize this approach. It gives a better understanding of the size of the network. So I don't have an answer for this because we didn't have time to actually execute those queries in the database. But I promise I will have these answers soon, definitely before the next hour. Estimate of percentage of data in excellent quality and so on. We will have those as well. So right now we have mechanisms running in batch that can give us these answers. It's just that because we're building the mechanisms, we were not so much worried about the state of the network and comparing the state of the network from day to day. But obviously, this is part of the plan, and it's part of what we have to do to make sure that the network is improving. Next question. Advanced hardware, battery pack. Yeah, okay. adding batteries is not such an advanced hardware approach, but so LoRaWAN is more energy hungry than the first version of the weather station that you guys have that is using GFSK modulation. So LoRaWAN is a bidirectional. It has a way larger payload because it includes encryption and location and stuff like that. So overall, it's consuming way more energy. That's why we had to put the external package.
Also Bluetooth.
Yeah, we also have a Bluetooth that is constantly on.
It's not using much battery when
Yeah, because it's PLE, but
in standby,
nevertheless.
but when it's used, it's actually
So basically, yeah. So to be honest, nobody knows. Not even not ourselves, not Seed Studio knows for sure how the weather stations are going to behave in real conditions long term.
regarding the power consumption.
Regarding the power consumption in terms of cloud, when you have a cloudy situation, or you have made a bad deployment, or you're in a weird place on Earth that the sun is hitting in the radiation is less, and so on. So that's why we went with the external pack. We want to make sure that it's easy to replace batteries and you don't have to do it often. But we don't have a specific number for this. We ourselves don't know how often batteries are going to be replaced for this hardware that doesn't exist yet in the market, basically. And there's a number of things that we are tuning in the firmware that are related to power consumption, like ADR.
We cannot calculate. We can't know the power consumption in advance in real conditions, but we can calculate it in a short period of time, and this is what we do basically. So we can assume that it will work. Our calculations show that it can work for about a year with the batteries, or more. Yeah, at least a year. That's the plan.
That was the tuning
Yeah.
for, but this
But
might change depending on conditions.
On conditions, yeah, it's different in Antarctica, different in Greece, for example, because
And
there's
different
sun radiation.
and different when a helium gateway is near versus
Signal
when
conditions, yeah.
it's far away, and that's the adaptive data rate that I mentioned before.
But it's actually a good idea. I mean, we could have maybe extra large battery packs for those that have unattended installations in very remote areas where they could have it linked for years, maybe.
Yeah, we could, but you can also just cut the cable and connect different set of batteries. I mean, it's a very easy problem to solve.
Not recommended, not supported.
Well, it's not safe. It's 2 AA batteries. Come on.
Not recommended, not supported
Yeah, okay,
by
whatever.
this is off record.
Yeah, I never said that. Okay. SDR WXM minor. So yeah, we have this question in every AMA. I do want to find a way to embrace the existing weather stations out there. It's just that we have other priorities, let's say. So this is technically possible, but it opens a can of worms. So we don't want to do this now, the SDR thing. So we should see this sometime in the future, but not in the near future. Token traded when and where. Well, that's the token launch, by the way. So we're tuning the token launch for end of year, Q4, which means we will be ready to do it in Q3 if there's a reason to do it in Q3, but most likely will happen in Q4. And to be honest, we haven't finalized the details. I mean, we're assuming that everything will take place on a DEX, like Uniswap or Balancer, but those are last minute decisions that are related with investors and market makers, and those discussions have not been finalized, let's say, yet. So no specific answer here. NFT are awarded to first-time early online users. Kind of. The first 100 weather stations, I don't know if any of you listening now are here. We've put some 3D printed WXM coins in there, some just some plastic coins, souvenirs. Because at the time we were very excited that we had customers. We didn't see that coming. And so there will be a special thing for the first 100 users. If any of you have this plastic coin, that means we know who you are. I'm not sure if it's going to be in the form of an NFT.
But even if you don't have the coins, we can infer.
Yeah, you don't need the
From-
actual coins,
yeah,
but
yeah.
if you had the coin, it means we know that you are in the first. You are if you have the coin, it means you are in the first 100. So let's move on. Yeah, problems with customs and Helium. Yeah, I covered this, but honestly, it's for your own benefit. I know it sounds lame, but it's better that you that you wait a few more days or a few months if you consider everything, because we're trying to solve some problems for you.
Keep WeatherXM accessible to all.
Uh,
But scalpers.
Scalpers. Okay, so that's an interesting question. When we released the iOS app in App Store in Apple, it was actually rejected because we were not conforming into some GDPR regulations, some regulations about
Privacy.
the ability of the end user to delete himself, herself, and which again, we're not against it. We just didn't think it was important. So that's why in the version that you guys have today, there is an option to delete your account, basically, and this is kind of helpful to people who want to buy the weather station, use it, and then delete their account and sell it more expensive or cheaper or whatever. This is a side effect. We didn't, tune for that. And I think the best solution to this problem of reselling weather stations, if one considers it to be a problem, obviously if the prices are high, it is a problem. The best solution to this is to solve the hardware scarcity by just producing more stations. And again, the idea here is that other companies will do that for us. We did not previously have experience with logistics and with selling that large number of units worldwide. That's why it's taking us longer to find the optimum path for those things. But hopefully we don't have to do this for too long. Most likely the third version of the hardware, the LTE, the LTE hardware station is not going to be shipped from our company. It's going to be shipped directly from the manufacturer, and that's the kind of collaborations we want to have in the future. So and therefore there should be a lot of stock available. There should be a lot of options. There should be a lot of manufacturers, and that should drop the price and should reduce situations where people taking advantage of others. It's almost done. The old questions. Why not? Well, there is one more question of Zerov about Explorer not showing total earnings, every station, blah blah. Okay, so yeah, there is a lot of statistics that we can produce for our token. We just didn't have time to build those dashboards. I know some of you are actually building those kind of dashboards already, and we want to help. We want to expose APIs to help other people build companion tools and companion websites about the project. It's just that until now we didn't have a lot of spare resources, let's say, to help with those kind of things. Now that the team is larger, we can definitely see improvements in the and how much more information we expose outside, so other people can build on that information or understand. We're 30 people today, and I'm moving to
There's also one question from Zero. Can we open shop for station replacement parts and 3D printed gadgets with guidance from the team? Well, you can print you can print replacement parts for your weather station, but the result will be bad data.
Yeah,
Because 3D printers, at least the popular ones, the FDM type, they produce bad quality parts. First of all, they will not be up to par with the injection molded factory parts, and second of all, they won't be performing as well because these are carefully weighted and carefully designed. For example, the wind vanes.
Mhm.
So even if you print them, all you will do is just produce bad data. So
yeah, but you can print some other stuff like accessories for batteries or whatever.
yeah, you can print like maybe battery packs or I don't know,
Voice
bed spikes, whatever.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's or maybe stands. Yeah, anything,
I mean
anything that doesn't affect the data is okay.
we have quite a few people in the team that have 3D printers at home, and they are 3D printer enthusiasts. So I mean, if we had time, we would love to see, a collection in Thingiverse or printables with stuff about this that are useful to this project. It's gonna be. It's just that we don't have a lot of resources to design those things. But yeah, I've already seen
Some people have designed stands for
Yeah,
M5.
stands.
I think you can find them on Thingiverse or something.
Yeah. Okay. How will you know if, for example, the wind speed is correct? So you have correct data. So wind is more tricky. Stavros, our meteorologist, could elaborate more on this. And by the way, we were thinking that we want to have this kind of live conversations more often and keep the recordings that we did on YouTube in the past, because they were consuming way too much time and they were not worth the effort. So yeah, so in the future, I'm answering a different question here, but in the future we will have more people from the team collaborating and participating in those live sessions, and depending on who is at the time talking, we can get into more details about specific stuff. So for wind speed, to be honest, I don't know what algorithms he is using. I know for solar radiation though. And basically for solar, what we're doing is we are tracking the typical solar radiation for the specific location of the station at that place at Earth. And we're comparing it to the observed data from the past and trying to spot anomalies. So it's an anomaly pattern detection mechanism, basically. And then we can, depending on the location of the sun, at that time that we see the anomaly, we can estimate where the obstacle is and how high the obstacle is for that particular station.
But it's not finalized. There are
Nothing's finalized, of course.
more parameters.
Yeah, too many parameters.
So similar techniques for wind. Wind is way more difficult, though.
Yeah, you can correlate direction, for example, with speed, and yeah, if wind speed to a particular direction is always maybe low or something, you can detect if the weather station was placed incorrectly.
So this is I want to leave this place and go to the live questions, but I'm going to answer I'm going to answer the posted question very quickly. It's come on, we're going to give it a more minutes.
Yeah.
The post-it notes are, we do everything on computers, but sometimes it helps to do some things on the physical world, like use pens and paper and post-its. And these are from workshops that we've done internally with team and trying to solve some difficult problems that require a lot of
post-it. Some from the wall and show them maybe.
Yeah, okay, next time. By the way, next time we will be in a different office, so there won't be any posted because we will have more meeting rooms. Okay, so let's go to the chat in the other place, the other screen. Where should I start?
Start. That's
Cool.
NIST.
What do you mean NIST? To the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Do we share the data with any meteorological agencies? I'm not sure on the question, Liberator. Can you rephrase?
The question is, why would NIST need this data?
I don't know
That's why I'm wondering.
Yeah, but I don't know if this NIST is what we think it is. So yeah, rephrase the question and we will come back to it. So
Co-curiosity is WeatherXM working on or planning on using AI.
we've covered the AI. Come on, that's a hype, guys. Don't fall for it. I'm sure there's many AI crypto projects out there that are selling tokens already. In the US, we have no October 3 weather data. Yes. So the question here is, what we do basically, is it useful for all the countries in the world in the same way? And the answer is, of course, no. So NOAA has the largest budget of a meteorological organization can have. They're operating on a 5 billion budget. And NOAA is operating 14,000 weather stations, ground weather stations, obviously way more expensive than ours, with infrastructure like, with actual land. And satellites and thousands of personnel and data from airplanes and weather radars, by the way. So US has a lot of weather radars. Weather radars are devices who monitor precipitation in distances of kilometers. And so for a city in the US, the network that we're building is not so extraordinary. I mean, the data that we're providing are not so rare. There were other sources already that have this kind of data. What we're providing for in that use case is microclimate conditions, like heat islands, for example, in the urban environment, might be useful to some particular use cases, but one can say that maybe that's not so important. As you move away, though, from the city, then the value of the data becomes more and more important. And if you also go away from the US and you go to other countries where they don't have this kind of equipment, then it becomes super important. Like the most extreme and cliche use case, scenario is to talk about Africa, which has the least infrastructure, the smallest weather infrastructure, let's say, in the world, and could benefit the most. Yet Africa is producing the most of the food for the rest of the world. So definitely there's a difference there between US and Africa. However, if a farmer in the US that could benefit from a weather station as much as a farmer in Africa, in a way, because in the farming use case, you need to have knowledge of the actual weather conditions that exist in your field in order to decide on the operations that you will do on a daily basis, schedule and optimize irrigation, fertilization, and collecting crops or or seeding crops and all those kind of things. So the problem to the farmer cannot be solved by NOAA unless NOAA has a weather station very nearby, and unless NOAA has developed, excellent knowledge around that particular area, which is usually not the case. So that's why the personal weather station industry exists. That's why there are hundreds of manufacturers that produce low-cost weather stations for people to deploy in their backyard or in their field and take advantage of the weather knowledge. What we're doing here is streamlining that process and adding additional knowledge and information and services on top of that. Yeah, a long answer. Blah, blah, blah. Balloons, weather balloons. Weather balloons are interesting. If you're modeling,
For the serious question.
yeah, but let me.
You haven't been watching the news.
I have.
Too risky these days. Too many planes shooting them down.
Yeah, okay. That's a US specific issue, but
And
weather balloons exist.
also.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's no, I was going to comment that weather balloons provide some useful information if you're modeling Earth and you need some information from the upper layers of Earth. The way we are approaching the problem of weather forecasts does not really benefit from weather balloons. So I think the weather balloons have a very unique use case and very unique type of customers, very, very limited. So it's very difficult to commercialize on this kind of data. And it's something that we've looked at that I think it would be very difficult for us to utilize in the project. But technically speaking, it's very easy to connect a weather balloon to WeatherXM. Anyway, let's move on. Okay, all these jokes are creating those poses. It's not my fault. Wouldn't be besides. Good question. GPS precision. So we wanna protect the locations of the weather stations, but at the same time, the customers of the weather data would like to know the exact locations of the GPS of the weather stations. So
outside of the hex is not really important also.
So yeah,
the hex is small enough that you don't really care where inside the hex.
I think I think it comes down to use cases. So there might be some customers that will ask for a very for the highest granularity data of the location of the stations, and when that happens, we will see how we are going to handle that situation. The type of customers that we have so far, that we are in discussions, let's say, in collaborations so far, are customers who also deploy their own weather stations. So it's not an issue for them because they know where the locations of the stations are, and they actually have access to all the data because they are owners of the stations. But I think on a high level here, just the quick answer to this is that we will not expose the location of your station. If we have to do that, we will get your permission, let's say. We will do it by letting you know and by maybe asking through the mobile app, creating a special permission. And so we want to treat this obviously with
Do you think that we will need such an info
I don't think we need this, but there might be a customer in the future that might have some use cases that requires to know the exact location of the source of the data. I'm just saying, if that happens, we can handle it. We can handle it in the app. We can ask users basically, and this will have an effect on the rewards as well. Positive effects. Okay. Needs to be applied to the airdrops of amount that provided before sending this to list. I'm not sure if I understand the question correct, Greg, but what basically will happen during airdrop, which is not exactly an airdrop, but it is what we internally call an airdrop. We will just, since we will use the latest version of the reward mechanism, that means we will use the latest version of the modeling of the sales and the capacity and whatever limits and multipliers we have at that time. So everything is going to be recalculated again. So the rewards you see today are just an old legacy version of the reward mechanism, and it's just it's going to change. Basically, it's going to be recalculated again. Blah.
How many devices?
Allowed in one hex. Yeah. So yeah, so this is what we call cell capacity and cell multiplier that I mentioned before. These are mentioned in the white paper, but we haven't released the modeling of Earth yet. So depending on the location that you are on Earth, there will be a different number of devices allowed, let's say, for your cell. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Craig asked, what are the numbers there? And I think, we will release the whole thing when it's ready. No Lambos with a coin yet.
Maybe a toy Lambo.
The coin for the Helium miner, what do you mean? I don't understand. The coin, there's
The 3D coin.
oh yeah, the 3D, actually the 3D printed coin was only for the M5 stations, because those were the stations we sold first more than a year ago. Yeah. Can it be an NFT to mark those and good installation and give data? What's up with the NFTs? I mean, we can. There's a possibility that we will use NFTs. Right now, we're building the smart contracts that are related with a burn mechanism, and we have come into a problem that might require an NFT as well per station. But for completely different reasons. To have an NFT to prove that somebody has been a good installer of stations, then what's the digital identity of that person? Or is it the person itself? Is it a wallet? Is it the person who owns that wallet has a proof that has been deploying stations properly? That might be a good idea, actually. Yeah, no, we haven't thought about this, but yeah, we'll put it in the discussion. I guess this might be useful if we have an ecosystem where some people are deploying stations professionally as a business, and they want to prove that they can do a good job. Yeah, obviously that's later down the road, but yeah, that could be useful. Yeah, how big is the team? 30 people. When will it happen on mainnet? So if you read the white paper, mainnet launch is Q4, and airdrop will start immediately after the token launch, after the launch on mainnet. But it's a long airdrop. It extends over time, so it's not your typical airdrop. So I suggest go read the white paper. How can we pay 30 people without selling data? Very good question. That's why we have given a percentage of the company to investors. So we raised $5 million from 10 investors earlier this year. And that's what's paying the bills, basically, and the salaries. And I think there was a question somewhere like talk more about the investors. Maybe I skipped it. It was in the So let me very quickly talk about this. So we fundraised earlier this year. Placeholder was leading the round. Chris Burninski. He's a very famous guy. If you don't know him, you should. And we have with us. So I think the question was saying, let's speak a little bit about its investors. So Placeholder is well known and respected in the Web3 ecosystem. It's a VC that has funded a number of Web3 native projects. Many of them are DAOs. And I think they have a very long experience in understanding crypto economics. And if you look at their portfolio, you can kind of guess their thesis as a VC. And I think we're honored basically that we have Placeholder with us. And the same applies for the other investors as well. It's just that I'm starting with that one. And so it's an investor that can really help this project from a Web3 perspective, I think. We have MetaPlanet as an investor. This is not so not a well-known VC. But again, you can judge what I think you can judge investors if you look at their portfolio. So if you go to metaplanet.com, you can see the other kind of companies that they have invested in, and they are most of them are very famous high tech, deep tech technologies, technological companies. We have SOSV with us, and D Labs and Hacks as well. So SOSV is a large VC that is doing pre-seed funding and has quite a few accelerators. One of them is called Hacks. Hacks is the most famous hardware accelerator, and we had their support when we went to China, Shenzhen a few years and started building our own weather stations. We have and now we have the D Labs support, which is the crypto accelerator of SOSV. Consensus, you should probably know them. They are also our investor. Protocol Labs, you should know them as well, I guess. Filecoin, the company behind Filecoin. And Juan Benet is also an angel investor, and he has helped this project quite a lot on a personal level, but also with the investment from Protocol Labs. We have DLDX. Those guys are veterans in the Bitcoin space, let's say, and in Helium as well, I guess. And I think they bring a lot of experience to the table from that angle. Borderless Capital. Again, those are, interestingly enough, they are a VC that is focused around Algorand. But they also have a lot of experience from the Helium space. And as you can guess, we have investors that have already invested in Web3 hardware projects, and that was the kind of help that we thought we will need when we were choosing investors, because we had the luxury to choose investors. Actually, the investment was the When we were fundraising, we were oversubscribed, so we had more offers than what we could take. Then we have some more awesome angels like Max and Dimitris and Lefteris, who again they bring a lot of experience from the crypto world, and they have and angel investors are useful because you can have more relaxed discussions with them, and you can get and they're more accessible, and you can test things out quicker. Am I forgetting someone from our investors? Shit.
Yes.
No, I mentioned that.
Yes.
No, I think that's all. Cool. I mentioned them all. Tachyon is the accelerator of consensus. So it's the same investor, just different.
I think you mentioned everyone.
I think let's move on.
No one will be sad that you forgot them.
Yeah, you can read. So we have a blog, and we write a lot of those things there. Maybe we're not promoting the blog enough. So you might not have seen it, but a lot of info is there.
TikToks.
Okay. Yeah, we want to have frequent updates as well, but we are just getting a grip of the situation. So yeah, we will organize that. Okay. What's the date until you have to sell data before you need a second fund round? I think this sounds like what's your runway? So with the investment that we had, we have plenty of runway to not launch the token at the beginning, at the end of this year. However, so this is a double-edged sword, let's say. So we can minimize expenses and make maximum use of this capital and extend it over time, and give ourselves a lot of time to build things. But obviously we're losing momentum, and you guys are going to get bored and leave, and so we don't want to be very slow. At the same time, you cannot be very fast, because if you move too fast, then what happens is you're just wasting capital, basically. We doubled the team in 6 months. If we were hiring any faster than that, that means we wouldn't be hiring top quality people as we did. And it would be difficult to organize ourselves and reinvent processes and so on faster than that. So every company has an opinion about what is the perfect speed of execution and speed of burning capital, and therefore defining what's the runway. I think we're playing kind of safe because we're engineers, and so maybe this project is moving it slightly slower than other projects that you've seen or participated. But the reason why we do this is because we want to make sure that everything that we build is there to stay. So the infrastructure, we're building physical infrastructure here. So
yeah, there's also some very difficult aspects to our project, namely hardware. You can easily mess up hardware and mess up the whole project. You have to move slow and do small, careful steps, because in hardware specifically, a huge error, you cannot take it back. There is no going back.
Yeah.
So you just have to take it carefully.
So if you compare it to a DeFi project that has everything on software, then I guess we're moving slow. But from our point of view, we're trying our best that we can, basically. Okay, what else? Okay, So here's Craig again, clarifying the question. So the cell capacity recalculated airdrop based where the station is deployed today, or where it was deployed at the time of its day's airdrop. So it will be calculated based on the location that the station was when it generated the data. So we will take the latest reward mechanism and apply it historically on a daily basis throughout the entirely the range of all the data that we have. Now, I think what you're asking, Craig, is are you going to penalize people who have moved their stations around?
I think he's asking that, for example, if half of the time you had your weather station at a cell that had only one weather station, and then you moved it to another that has maybe 7 weather stations. So the rewards, so the airdrop should not be the same, or will it be the same?
Yeah, but there's an additional complexity here. Like you're moving the weather station, and you can easily do it now, but in the future there will be a penalty for this. So how is the penalty going to be applied historically? And I think to have these answers, we need to basically execute the whole reward mechanism on historical data, see what happens, see what are the edge cases that are getting less rewards, and the algorithm that we're following is not treating them in a fair way, and we will correct for that. So obviously, airdrops are supposed to be a surprise, and we have been open about this all along. Let's keep an element of surprise in it. But the whole idea here is like from the community's perspective, all you have to do is just make sure that you do a proper deployment. And by proper, I don't mean necessarily, put the highest possible ball in the middle of nowhere. I mean, don't do a completely stupid deployment, like some of the photos that we see circulating here and there, and we laugh, and everybody's laughing. Avoid those kind of deployments, because those ones are going to be penalized for sure.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Would need GPS in the station. The Helium version has GPS inside the station, and future versions will also have GPS.
So we have so we're working on an improvement for the M5 as well. Again, that's going to be released in the summer, probably.
That's inside info.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, anyway, so we know that in the future, all stations there's going to be a situation
essentially we're trying to make it easier for you to deploy and use your station, and that also applies to GPS, because many users have trouble with GPS signal, because either they're not putting the M5 near the window, or maybe there's a balcony,
upside down.
Yeah, stuff like that. That makes it maybe not very user friendly, and we're working on that.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Helium has a GPS.
Helium has GPS, yes.
So it's easy. And in the future, all weather stations should have GPS, independent of the GPS that the internal console has.
Mm-hmm. Update coming for M5 display and UI. Yes, soon we're going to have a.
So we've done so many iterations on this, and we have a lot of let's say half-baked firmwares, for a number of reasons.
Prototype of new design prototypes.
So for a number of reasons, we didn't push those firmwares to you, because as Nico said before, it's better to be sure that everything is perfectly working, instead of doing a mass firmware upgrade and then bricking all your devices. So But the new UI is going to look awesome.
Apple Watch
Apple Watch.
application.
So we have an API already, and we're gonna work towards helping integrating with third-party software. So then anybody can integrate whatever they want. So we don't have to necessarily do that. So an Apple Watch integration or a Home Assistant integration or a Open App integration should be very easy. Ability to share weather station with friends and family. Yeah, we discussed this. Yes, you will have this functionality.
Follow your
too.
station.
We call it follow station functionality. It should be in the app in the future.
Physical display for Helium version not planned yet.
It is possible.
It is possible, but
It's
planned
not.
yet.
It's not in the roadmap at this point, but it might happen. Let's say after the summer.
It's not planned, so it might not happen.
Yeah. It might never happen, but it might. If it happens, it's going to be definitely after the summer. Widget for Android, I guess you mean, or web widgets. Also, this is something that we want to do, but it's down the road, later down the road. This related to station verification, the white
Your
paper.
station.
Yeah. So the plan here is to photograph. There will most likely there will be a point where we will ask you to photograph your weather station through the mobile app
During onboarding.
during the onboarding process. For the ones who already deployed their station, they will have to do it afterwards. So we call that Know Your Station,
Should not call it that way.
or we will figure out how we will call it.
The
KYS.
initials don't sound very nice.
So yeah, it's a kind of KYC for the station. 360 video would be cool, but it's technically difficult to achieve if your station is at the corner of a building or something. But this is something that we are currently designing. This, so the early alpha will be soon tested with some members of the community. So if you move the station constantly, the data that the station creates are not very useful because we don't have a lot of historical data in that location. So we don't have the luxury to, we don't have the ability to build a model, a knowledge for that station and that cell in particular. So that's why we don't want stations to be moving around, and there will be a penalty for relocating station at some point.
What are you?
Should I reflect in the so
Yes, this is planned also.
yeah, so there's a question here about are we going to ask the user to specify the height of the deployed station?
For the GPS stations, you won't need to do that.
But it's useful. So if a station has a GPS, we know where it's placed in. I mean, what's the height, and we can guess from the models that we have of Earth. We can guess how high it is in relationship to the ground. However, we cannot guess if it's on a building, and we cannot guess on the obstacles. So that's part of the KYC that we mentioned before. So when you take photos, and at that phase, there will be some questions that you will have to answer, and probably the pole height will be one of those questions. As I said, we're designing this now, so we haven't finalized yet what are the questions that the user will have to reply. Yeah, we can close it here. No more questions.
Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, we've been past 1 hour, 1.5.
Yeah.
We tried to cover everything. This was cool. Let's do it again. Yeah.
We need to do it more often in the
Yeah,
future.
and bring more people from the team, and also more people from the team are going to engage in Discord from now on, because we are like we're passing the point of crazy deadlines, and we are trying to smooth things in the office and in the processes and in the interaction with the community, let's say.
I would stay here.
Okay, yeah. So Lina is going to be here for a while. Some of us might also be in Discord. If you want to shoot something else, let us know. Thank you, guys. Take care.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you.